Hi, and welcome to EBA Day TV. And today I'm speaking to Neil Burton and Matt O'Donnell of Earthport. And we're going to be talking about low-value cross-border payments. So, is there an opportunity for banks to capitalize on the surge in demand for these types of payments?
Yes, very much so. I think we should start by describing what we mean by low-value payments. So we typically talk about values up to about €100,000. To put it in context, about 60% of the transactions going across Target 2 are sub 50k, so it's a very, very big segment. If we look at it in the B2B space, the internet has very much enabled trade internationally, so not only are we seeing growth in trade volumes, but we're also seeing the average value per transaction declining, so that's playing to the market as well. And in the P2P space, we've got in excess of 200 million people living outside their country of birth. And that generates an awful lot of remittance transactions. There's something like 2 billion transactions per annum. And it is also generating things like disbursements and pension payments and expense payments, things of that nature. So it's not just P2P transactions. So yes, what used to be seen as a niche is now very much a market segment, and we're seeing banks put product managers in specifically to focus on low-value payments.
What are some of the challenges banks face before they can take advantage of these opportunities?
Well, banks have a number of challenges. One of them is that the international department has always dealt with the correspondent international cross-border business. And because of that focus purely on international, it often is placed at some distance from the customer. Another challenge is, of course, that the banks have a requirement to try and achieve customer growth, and they look for some kind of differentiation in their payment services. Yet they're stuck with an age-old business process of cross-border payments. Now, the consumer experience and the retail experience and the business experience from the corporate for their domestic payments is vastly different. They tend to leverage very highly efficient ACHs, huge amount of automation, and a bank is faced with a huge challenge on trying to blend together both a traditional cross-border correspondent network and some kind of access to local delivery to make a ubiquitous service to a customer. And in these times, building a solution around that is often a pretty difficult business case. So the opportunity really is for banks to leverage the existing networks out there.
Why is price transparency so elusive with low value, high volume cross-border payments?
Well, lack of transparency is not just an issue with low value, it's with all payments, but it just affects low value payments more because lack of transparency affects the principal value being eroded out of the payment itself. So that's not a new thing, the drive towards transparency. It hasn't yet reached the qualities you expect to see in things like the parcel movement industry, where you can track a parcel from its outset, have full exposure of all of the costs and processes throughout. But it is moving in that way. There are a number of reasons for that. The ability to leverage local systems is one of them, and regulation has played its part too, and that's another story.
What impact do international regulations have on these types of payments?
It's a huge question, Liz. There's a lot of parts to that. Perhaps if I just focus on one of the more interesting ones recently, Dodd-Frank Section 1073 in the States, which is enforcing transparency on price and on service levels on consumer payments. It's a really far-reaching regulation. There's a number of interesting aspects to it. One of the things that I'm very keen to see is whether the corporate market will start to adopt it. The regulation is only about consumer payments, but of course there's nothing to preclude corporates picking up on it and so forth. And also what regulators in other countries are going to do, whether they're going to follow this. Very exciting area.